Welcome to the Coach Zing Show, helping you work less, earn more, and reach more people through creative content marketing. Join the Coach Zingers community, where the world's best coaches, therapists, authors, and speakers come together to discover the latest trends, forge powerful joint ventures, and grow their business together. Go to CoachZing.com/community to join. And now, here's your host, Doug Foresta.
Hello, and welcome back to the Coach Zing Show. This is Doug Foresta, your host as always. This is a show we help you, coaches, therapists, speakers, and authors to work less, earn more, and help more people through creative content marketing. And with me today, back with me, is Coach Zing's most frequent and esteemed guest. Bill O'Hanlon is joining me. We're going to talk about how to carve your platform for greater visibility and income. And CARVE is an acronym that we'll go through.
That's right.
And just say a little bit about Bill before I bring him on for those of you that don't know him. And like I said, if you're new to the show and you have not heard of Bill, definitely recommend going back and listening to. We have great episodes about publishing books and launches and using stories. Great stuff. Bill O'Hanlon is a featured Oprah author of 30 plus books, international speaker. He's broken the idea of platform into easily understandable elements that you can work on a little bit at a time to increase book sales, get more and better speaking gigs, and move your business up another notch or two. He's written 37 books, mostly published by major publishers such as W.W. Norton, HarperCollins, Penguin, Pearson, and others. He has self-published and e-published and coached over 100 books into publication. He was a featured Oprah guest with his book, Do One Thing Different. He's given over 3,000 talks all over the world. He created an approach to change called the solution-oriented approach, inspired by his studies and mentorship with the eccentric late psychiatrist Milton H. Erickson. And Bill, where should we send people today? Where would you like to send them?
Oh boy, there's a few places.
Always the question.
But I always like to send them to getyourbookraten.com to get a free guide to get your book started. If you've had a book in you and needs to come out, I'll get you started.
Awesome. And we'll put that link on the show page as well.
Okay, great.
Bill, thank you so much. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. I have to hold on to my position here as the most frequent guest. And I don't know whether it's a comment on my really amazing creativity or I'm just like all over the place because we've done so many topics. But as you know, I have a restless mind and I'm very excited about a lot of different things. And I come up with these acronyms, and when I come up with, Doug's going to love this. Let's do this.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and they're all related. It's not like we're talking about tennis.
True. It's true. I'm not that all over the place, and I have somehow managed to write 37 books, so I can focus at times.
Yeah, no, it's really fantastic. I mean, your ability to develop new programs and new things. So I'm excited about the CARVE. So can you maybe before we go into that, what those are, can you say a bit about what that is? What is CARVE, your platform?
Well, let's just talk the platform part first.
That's true. What is platform?
Because that's one of your specialties is helping people develop that. So I'll tell you when I first came across it was a number of years ago now. I was riding around New York with my literary agent, trying to sell my latest book. And this word wasn't very known at the time. Now it's a lot more well known, but this platform word, and every scene we would go to was the same in the publishing houses. They'd usher us into this big conference room with this big table. The secretary receptionist would bring us some coffee or water or whatever we wanted. And then the editor who was thinking of buying the book and the head of marketing and publicity and maybe another person or two would join us up to talk about whether they wanted to buy my book. And there were 4 or 5 major New York publishers who were interested in it and had looked at the proposal. And they all said the same thing about this particular book, which actually ended up getting published. But they said, we love your platform, Bill, but we're not sure about this book. And I was like, okay. So I had to kind of pitch him on the book and tell him why it was publishable and different. And finally, one of them bought it. And it ended up coming out with a slightly different title. It was called Thriving Through Crisis. That was my initial title. But after we left about the third one, I turned to my agent. I said, what is this platform? They all say they love my platform, that I have a really big platform. And I would kind of look down at my crotch and say, I don't have a big platform. What does that mean? And she didn't explain it actually very well. She said, well, it's because you have a degree and you publish in peer-reviewed journals.
Nope.
You're respected in your field. And that isn't exactly what platform is, although that is a component. So I went on this search for what that seems to be what they're thinking about these days, about whether they're going to buy my book. They said, if you have another book, we'd like to buy it because we really love your platform. So I'm like, okay, they like the platform. They don't like the book that much. What is so cool about platform? And now it's more well known, and you coach people all the time and help people develop platform. But I wanted to break it down into, how do I get one if I don't have one, or how do I get a bigger one if I don't have a very big one that helps me, get speaking gigs, sell my book, take my business to the next level? How do I do it, as you said, in little pieces so it doesn't seem so overwhelming? Because one time I was coaching some people, a group of people on book writing, and I told them my platform. And one of the people in it said, now I have platform envy. I didn't know a couple of minutes ago what a platform was, but now I have platform envy. I want your platform. And I said, no, you have your own platform. And I started to talk about it, and I realized I was breaking it down in a way that he started to get excited about his own platform, and he could see how he could make it better. So let's go into this CARVE thing. And let me just say what the letters stand for, and then we'll go into them one at a time.
Awesome.
All right. So CARVE is just an acronym, one of these acronyms. I like to make up these lists to make things easy to remember. It stands for credibility, audience, relationship, visibility, and evidence. I'm going to say it once more. Credibility, audience, relationship, visibility, and evidence. And if you take the first letter of each of those words, that stands for CARVE. And so a platform, the way I think about it is almost like you're carving a thing to stand on, that if you stood on it and there were a bunch of people milling around, in a yard, and someone was standing on a tree trunk that you carved that made you stand head and shoulders above everybody else. If a book publisher or a person who hires speakers, or somebody who's looking for a therapist or a coach, or somebody who's looking for your services, your kind of services, walked in and saw this big crowd, and they saw this one person with their head and shoulders standing above everybody else, they'd notice you first. So that's really the metaphor, if you want to think of this. So I'm going to help you think about carving your platform. So let's start with the first C, which is credibility. All right. So credibility is sort of what my agent was telling me. I have a degree. Now I have a master's degree. If you have a PhD or an MD or several degrees in the topic area that is your book or your speaking or your business, then you're going to have more credibility than I have. So that's one kind of credibility. Another kind of credibility is, what have you accomplished in the world? When you introduced me, you said Bill's written over 30 books.
You've been on
That's
Oprah.
A certain credibility.
Right.
He's been on Oprah. What have you done in the world? So if you're, like I was when I was younger, sort of a Walter Mitty dreamer, and you've dreamed about doing things, you haven't got much of a platform yet. You actually have to do something. And I remember one of the first things I did, and we'll talk about this going into some of the other categories of CARVE too, is I was obsessed with Milton Erickson's work. As you mentioned in the introduction, I studied with this very interesting psychiatrist who's well known in therapy, but probably not known outside of therapy, except he was one of the people that inspired neurolinguistic programming. So some people would know him, I guess, from that. But, not a lot of people got to study with him. And those who didn't understand him very much. And I was really obsessed with him. And I started a newsletter based on his work. And so, I didn't get paid for that. But all of a sudden, I had started an earlier newsletter on neurolinguistic programming. And so all of a sudden, people knew me, and I got invited to do the Erickson newsletter for a foundation because I had already done a previous newsletter. Neither of those was paid positions. But all of a sudden people said, oh, that's Bill O'Hanlon. He's the editor of the da-da-da, and he knows everything that's going on in Ericksonian stuff, because I was the sort of central hub of this work, or even NLP in the early years. And so I accomplished something, even though that wasn't about degrees. It was just me being interested in something, but then I did something with it to do something in the world to get credibility in that area. So it could be your experience. If you climbed, a mountain that, somebody died on, you could write a book about that because you have experience of that. It doesn't matter about your degrees or your previous accomplishments. You have some experience of that. If you survived the famous shipwreck that, it could be life experience too. So what's your credibility in this topic area that you want to get known for? So that's the C. A is, I'm hardly ever giving you a chance to talk here.
No, I'm actually really, my job really is to let you do your thing. And
okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's not much of a conversation because I have this all thought out.
No, I want to hear this.
Thinking about it for years, but audience is the second one. Like, who is the audience for your topic, your business, your speaking, your books? And have you thought about that clearly? And have you found a way to be known to them, to be, we'll talk about this a little later, visible to them. But it's really a good idea to think about who the audience is, because sometimes, if you have a topic and nobody else is speaking to that audience, but they have a great need, like Facebook ads came out a while ago and I had no idea. And a bunch of people started making things for Facebook ads, and I wanted to learn about them. So I was clearly the audience for that. And whoever got out there first or had the best kind of training or even gave away free stuff, I was interested in them, and I learned their names, and I found out about them because I was in their audience. So who's your audience? Who do you want to touch? Who do you want to reach? And how can you reach out to them? And when I coach people to write their platforms for books, I say, put in their statistics about how many people are interested in this topic, how many people are searching on Google, that kind of stuff. So the third one is the R in CARV. So we've got credibility, audience. The third one is relationship and connection. Now, the reason I'm on this show is because you and I connected a while ago. You reached out to me, and then we've had many connections and conversations.
It's been like 5 years. About 5 years and probably 25 episodes.
I just got an email from you the other day introducing me to one of your connections.
Yep.
And you're saying, you two, I talk about you two to each other all the time. You two should meet. What does that do? It creates more relationship, more connection. First of all, that person you introduced me to now knows me. I now know her, and we've established more connection. And you're good at that. You do a lot of facilitation of connections. But, who do you know? That's part of, I was surprised when I became a speaker how many gigs I got because someone who organized a conference or sponsored a conference or hires speakers told somebody else, said, oh, you ought to get Bill O'Hanlon. He was just great at our last yearly conference. And I thought I was going to have to, struggle for every speaking gig I got. And I did for a long time. But all of a sudden, when I started to make connections, or I go to a big conference, an international conference, and I'd meet somebody from a different country and they'd say, oh, you do speaking? Why don't you come over to our place? Or we have a connection to a publishing company. We could get your book translated into Swedish and published there. And I'm like, great, terrific. It's about relationships and connections. So that's part of your platform. I know people in the publishing industry. So when I want to do something in the publishing industry, I know agents, I know publicists, I know, literary attorneys. I can help connect people there. And also I can draw upon that network to get things done or to facilitate my project. So connections and relationships are really important.
Quick question. You might answer this already in the V and the E. So if it is, then then we can just push this question down the road. But I was curious about how, just any recommendations about, for people who are, maybe they're just starting out to get out there, about how they can build those relationships.
I think it's always nice to do nice things for people. I think give before you ask is probably a good idea. accomplish something. So you're not just coming out of the, woodwork saying, help me, do something for me. Or I'm a cool person, you should connect with me. So I think two principles are accomplish something, and then people will want to be connected to you. Be a generous and kind person, and I've been interviewed by probably 4,000 people over the years. I don't know how many, but I don't have much of a connection to many of them, but I have a connection with you. And if anybody listens to this podcast or your other stuff, it comes through the microphone, your kindness and generosity and your sincere interest. Some people are on autopilot when they interview or when they do a show with
Let's get through the next question, right?
Absolutely. I've been on those shows where it's all persona. They're not really interested. They're waiting to get to the commercial or they're waiting to get to the next thing. They want to get this over with. And you have, I think why your shows have persisted so much and why they're so popular is you have a genuine interest and you connect with people. It's a sign of a good interviewer and it's a sign of a good therapist and it's a sign of a good coach. And it's a sign of, you show interest in people. You're not just trying to take, number one. And you say, hey, Bill, what should we, where should we send people? You're doing a nice thing for me right at the very moment after you introduce me. So I think that's part of the principle is generous and likable, and, fun. And everybody wants to hang around with those people.
Right. Okay, cool. Got it. Thank you.
V is the obvious one, which is visibility. Where can people see you? I remember when I started to become pretty well known in psychotherapy land because I was speaking and I was writing books and I was teaching at all the major conferences. And people would come up to me when they would see me in one place or another and say, you're everywhere. I see you everywhere. And I wasn't everywhere. I was only at a certain places, and there's only one of me to go around. These days, when you have online stuff, you can have a blog, you can have a podcast, you can have a website, you can be on Doug Foresta's show, you can, there's a lot of things you can do. You can have a Twitter account, you can have, a Periscope account, whatever, you can be pretty visible with a fairly small amount of time and money, really. And you can have an email list, but you need to be somehow out there. And I remember, people that I notice, all of a sudden I see, a TED Talk with them and I see an interview on Tim Ferriss's podcast. I hear them on your podcast and all. It's like, wow, this person is everywhere. They're hot right now. And that's visibility. How can you get yourself, again, on that tree trunk that stands you above the crowd so people notice you because there's a lot of noise, a lot of books coming out, a lot of speakers, a lot of podcasts, a lot of businesses offering something similar to what you offer. Can you be more visible than the rest?
That's great.
All right. Last one, E, evidence. Especially because I coach people to write books and get published, some people have lied. About what they've done or who, I've come across people who will say, so-and-so has given me a blurb for my book. And then you contact so-and-so and there is no blurb. I mean, they didn't do it. The person lied. I had someone get a speaking gig because he contacted one of my sponsors and said, Bill O'Hanlon recommended me and said, that you would really want to hire me. And my friend who ran this conference, it was a conference on the East Coast, said, every other time I've checked with you, and he didn't check with me this time. Because every other time the person told the truth. And that I said, hey, you should have this person contact so-and-so and he'll hire you, if he likes you. And, I was so upset that person had misled that person, and he learned a lesson. He was always going to call me from then on. And he actually said, gosh, the guy did a really good job and I'm having him back. And I said, well, that's good. But 3 years later, he said, I'll never have that guy back again. And he did this really sleazy thing. And I was like, okay.
Well, yeah, right. Because it was right.
What can I say? How you do anything is how you do everything. So you got to provide some evidence for your assertions. My book was a New York Times bestseller or not. Is it? Show the evidence. I have 80,000 people on my email list. Well, where's the evidence?
Right.
You know, people lie and get away with it. We see it all the time in politics, you know, that people don't have degrees they say they had. So provide evidence for it. And I didn't do this for years. I didn't collect the evidence. As I said, I think I've been interviewed probably 4,000 times. It's easy for me to talk. Even though I've written a lot of books, I'd much rather talk than write a book. And so I really thrived on, especially radio interviews, but I've been on a bunch of television shows too. For about 15 years, I kept no record of that. And when I went to publish, started to do proposals for books, which I didn't have to do for my initial books, I was like kicking myself. Why didn't I keep a list of those things? I did keep a list of all my workshops for years. And I had, when I went over 3,000, I stopped. But I don't do that many workshops anymore. But keep some evidence. I used to keep brochures of every one of my workshops. And so at least make a list. If you've got evidence, make a screenshot of the number of people in your Twitter account that follow you on Twitter. And, make a screenshot of the number of people on your email list, the number of listeners to your podcast.
Right.
Just make a screenshot of that, or make a list, or, take a picture with your iPhone or whatever it may be of something, an article that was in a magazine. If you can't get that article as a digital copy, take a picture of the cover, of the magazine, things like that. So I've got the clip from Oprah that I was on, I've got that. I recorded it off back when we had VHS, and I recorded it, and I've digitized it since in case I need to show that to anyone. So have some evidence. So to go back through them, in order to raise yourself, your credibility and your visibility and your results above the crowd, you should have credibility, know your audience, who they are and where you can get to them. Have relationship connections with people that can make a difference and are in that topic area or can make a difference in your general success, visibility, and evidence of all this stuff that we've been talking about, your credibility, the audience, the relationships you have, and the visibility that you have. And as you said before, I would be every week doing one small thing to increase my platform so that I could have more choices and be more successful and be more visible in the future.
Yeah, I was going to thank you so much, Bill. That was my last question to you, was going to be, what's the difference between having platform and not having platform in your experience?
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. I was on Oprah, and I had an agent who shall remain nameless, and I don't like to tell kind of negative stories, but she was a terrible agent. She was absolutely disrespectful, would forget my co-authors' names and mispronounce names, tell me to redo a proposal, and I would work on it for a week, and then I would send it in. I wouldn't hear from her for a couple of months, and it was frustrating to me. And I would write her, hey, what's going on, or call her. And finally I'd hear from her, and she'd look at it, and she'd say, why did you change it from the last version? The last version was a lot better. I said, you told me to change. It was so frustrating. She was just, difficult. Now she got me $50,000 for my last book. And so that was good. But then I'm on Oprah and my book sells really well. And I think, I can get a new agent. This will be great. I don't have to be stuck with this agent. Because getting agents is about as hard as getting a big New York publisher, or maybe harder. So I prepare some proposals and I send them out to 5 agents. I don't hear from 3 of them. I'm still waiting to hear. That was like 2000, and I'm still waiting to hear from 3 of them. I never heard from those agents. And I'm like, I was just on Oprah.
Right. I'm an Oprah guy.
At least write me back and tell me no. But I never heard from them. One of them said, not a good fit. And the other one said, let's talk. And we talked, and that wasn't a good fit. And I'm like, what the heck? I thought I could get an agent like that because I was just on Oprah. And that's when I really started to pay attention to this platform thing. And I created a new proposal and I put the platform first. I put the book name and the introduction, maybe 1 page, and then I put my platform right after that. And I sent some platform evidence of DVDs, I think VHS at the time, but I would put DVDs in there now or send them to a streaming site of some media appearances and audio and video. And I sent it off overnight to the one new agent that I just found that I thought was really good and could take me to the next level. I got a call on the next day saying, did you find representation yet? And I said, no, because you're the only one I've approached. And she said, I would love to represent you. Now, that's the difference between platform and not. I put the platform up front, and I'd worked on that platform, obviously, and I'd worked on getting the evidence available, both the audio and the video and the lists, and I really created a great platform statement, and that made all the difference in the world. I got that book published, and I got a new agent who I liked a lot, and I got a $50,000 advance for the next book.
So that I think that speaks for itself.
It was worth $50,000 for me for that. So I'd say, it won't be worth that for everybody. It'll be worth a lot more for some people, a little less. But every one of us can, I think, if we want to do this kind of stuff of speaking and podcasting and book writing and business, personal business or larger business, platform is essential.
Bill O'Hanlon, thank you so much. I won't stop until we reach 4,000 episodes between the two of us.
All right, good. I'm ready to do it. I'll come up with more topics, and so will you, and we'll have a great time. Thank you.
And again, I want to remind people, because you do awesome work with people, helping them with their books and their platform. Yeah. So they can go to getyourbookWritten.com. Is that correct?
Correct. And they get a free report, and then they'll get a bunch of emails afterwards that will give them inspiration and information to get their books finally out in the world. And that's part of your platform. It's having a book out there.
All right. Until next time, thank you so much, Bill.
Thanks, Doug.
And thanks, everyone, for listening. I want to remind you that if you've not subscribed to the podcast, go ahead and visit iTunes, click the subscribe button. Takes 3 seconds, and you'll get all the old episodes, and you'll get all the new episodes delivered Monday through Friday, helping you to work less, earn more, and help more people through creative content marketing. Till next time, this is Doug Foresta at The Coach Singh Show.
Thank you for listening to The Coach Singh Show. Subscribe to us via iTunes, and please leave us a review. It helps us grow our awesome tribe. This show is brought to you by CoachSing.com's Speak to Publish book system. If your book is stuck in your head, we can help you get it out in just a dozen hours of your time. Go to CoachSing.com for more information. Have you joined the Coach Zingers community yet? You'll get exclusive access to private mastermind calls where you can get instant marketing help from industry experts. Plus, we'll help you forge deals and partnerships with other like-minded professionals. Go to CoachZing.com/community to join now.